At my wife's company Christmas party, my wife, Sienna, was laughing while her boss held her by the waist. He pointed at me, grinning, and said, "You're just another sad trophy she keeps in the basement. Broke, clingy, and forgettable." Everyone laughed, including my wife. Except me. I just smiled and said to the CEO, "You're just another loser who's about to lose 95% of his company." The moment I said those words, his face turned pale. You know that feeling when you're at a party where everyone's pretending to have fun, but you can smell the BS from a mile away? That was me, standing in the corner of this ridiculously overpriced ballroom like some kind of wallflower at prom. Sienna's company Christmas party was supposed to be our night out, a chance to dress up and pretend we were fancy just for a few hours. Instead, I felt like I was watching a bad reality show, everyone trying way too hard to impress each other. The ballroom was decked out, Christmas exploded everywhere. Chandeliers probably worth more than my car, ice sculptures already melting into expensive puddles, and enough champagne to fill a swimming pool. The whole place screamed, "Look how successful we are," in that way that makes you want to roll your eyes until they fall out. I nursed my whiskey, the good stuff, not the cheap crap you usually get at these corporate shindigs, and watched Sienna work the room. She was in her element. Confident smiles, perfectly timed laughs. My wife could charm the pants off a scarecrow. Me? I was as useful as a screen door on a submarine, just standing there trying to look like I belonged. But the worst part wasn't the fake conversations about quarterly reports or the pretentious small talk about vacation homes in the Hamptons. No, the worst part was feeling invisible. You ever been in a room full of people and still felt completely alone? That was me, drowning in a sea of expensive suits and designer dresses, wondering why I'd bothered putting on my best tie for this circus. Then Carson Vance showed up. If there's ever been a guy who looked like he came straight out of a douchebag CEO starter pack, it was him. Perfect hair, teeth so white they could blind a pilot, and a smile that screamed, "I'm better than you and we both know it." Carson wore his arrogance like a cheap cologne, overwhelming and impossible to ignore. He glided across the room like he owned the place. Technically, he did. Stratus was his baby, his golden goose, his ticket to the kind of wealth that lets you buy politicians for fun. He glad-handed his way through the crowd, dropping names and making promises he'd never keep. When he reached Sienna, something in my chest tightened. Not jealousy, just that feeling you get when you see a car accident about to happen in slow motion. He slipped his arm around her waist with the confidence of a man who's never been told. "No." "Sienna, darling," he said, voice dripping with fake warmth, "you look absolutely stunning tonight. Where's that husband of yours hiding?" The crowd laughed like he just told the funniest joke in the world. Sienna's laugh was bright and musical, the same one that used to make my heart skip a beat when we were dating. Now it just felt like nails on a chalkboard. "Oh, Julian's. Around here somewhere," she said, eyes scanning the room until she found me. For a split second, I thought I saw something apologetic in her expression. Then Carson followed her gaze, and his grin turned predatory. "Ah, there he is," Carson announced, voice booming across the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Julian Cross, the man who's mastered the art of being professionally unemployed." The laughter that followed hit me like a slap in the face. Sienna's colleagues, her friends, people I'd smiled at and made small talk with for years, eating it up like I was the entertainment. But Carson wasn't done. Oh no, he was just getting started. He tightened his grip on Sienna, pulling her closer like she was some kind of prize. "You know what Julian is?" he continued. "Sienna's little basement trophy. The kind of guy who stays home, watches TV, and lives off his wife's hard work. Broke, clingy, and completely forgettable." The room erupted. Some woman in a sequin dress actually snorted champagne through her nose. Even the waiters tried to hide their grins. And then there was Sienna, my wife. the woman who promised to have my back through thick and thin. She laughed the loudest. Bright, clear, absolutely devastating. The room spun, not from the whiskey, but from the crushing weight of betrayal. These people didn't know me. They didn't know what I'd done, what I'd built, what I'd sacrificed. But Sienna did. Or at least, she should have. The laughter died down. Carson basked in the attention, already planning his next zinger. That's when I decided I'd heard enough. I set my glass down on the nearest table, crystal, of course, and walked toward the center of the room. The crowd parted. Carson's grin faltered. Good. I wanted him off balance. I stopped in front of him, close enough to smell his expensive cologne and the desperation beneath it. The room was dead silent, everyone waiting to see what the basement trophy would do. I looked Carson straight in his blue eyes and smiled. Not bitter, not angry, just calm and unshakable. "You know what, Carson?" I said, my voice carrying across the room. "You're right. I am just a guy who's been hanging around in the basement." His grin returned. He thought he'd won. "But here's the thing about basements," I continued. "That's where you keep all the really valuable stuff. And you, my friend, are just another loser who's about to lose 95% of his company." Carson's face went white, not pale, white as snow. The lies he'd been telling himself, gone. The silence stretched on, and I walked away. Stepping out of that ballroom felt like leaving a fever dream. The cool December air hit my face, and for the first time all evening, I could actually breathe. Behind me, the stunned silence gave way to confused chatter. Let them choke on their champagne and expensive words. My footsteps echoed across the marble floor, each one marking the distance between who they thought I was and who I really am. The doorman nodded as I passed. Probably relieved to see someone leaving the pretentious circus upstairs. I didn't blame him. If I had to watch rich people play dress-up for a living, I'd probably have a drinking problem, too. "Julian! Julian! Wait!" I heard her. Designer. Heels clicking. Her dress rustling. Sienna chasing after me like a rom-com heroine. Except this wasn't cute or romantic. This was desperate damage control. I didn't slow down. Why should I? She'd had her chance to stand up for me. Instead, she chose to laugh with the crowd. Now she wanted to talk. Now she cared. "Julian, please stop." Her voice was breathless, probably from running in those ridiculous heels. Part of me wanted to let her chase me into the night, but the other part, the part that remembered why. I'd fallen for her, made me stop. I turned around slowly, giving her time to catch up. She was out of breath, hair coming undone, cheeks flushed. "What the hell was that supposed to mean?" she demanded. "What you said to Carson, about losing his company. Julian, that doesn't make sense. You can't just threaten people like that." I laughed, not bitter, just amused at the absurdity. "Sienna, that wasn't a threat. That was a promise." She stared at me. "Julian, you're scaring me. You're talking crazy. Carson owns Stratus Tech. He built that company. You can't just—" "Can't what?" I interrupted. "Can't tell the truth? Can't defend myself when your boss turns me into a punchline?" "That's not what happened," she protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Really?" I stepped closer, because it looked like my wife found it hilarious when another man called me a pathetic loser who lives off her success. Her eyes flickered, maybe guilt, but her defenses went back up. "You're being ridiculous," she said, not meeting my eyes. "It was just a joke, Julian. Carson was just being Carson. You know how he is at these things." "Yeah, I do. The question is, do you know how I am?" She frowned, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked at her. The million-dollar question. My own wife. Didn't know me. She didn't know what I'd done, what I was capable of. To her, I was exactly what Carson said. A basement trophy, a kept man. "It means," I said, turning toward the parking garage, "you're about to find out." "Julian, don't walk away from me," Her heels clicked frantically, trying to keep up. I stopped so suddenly she almost crashed into me. Sienna, 5 minutes ago, you were laughing while your boss made me the entertainment. Now you want explanations. Her mouth opened, then closed. She knew I was right, but her pride wouldn't let her admit it. I wasn't laughing at you, she said weakly. It was awkward, Julian. I didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do? I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. When someone insults your husband in front of dozens of people, you didn't know what to except laugh? That's not fair. Fair? I shook my head. Fair would have been you telling Carson to shut up. Fair would have been you walking out with me. Fair would have been you knowing who you married. We reached my car, a modest sedan looking like a rust bucket next to all the BMWs in the garage. Sienna probably saw it as proof of what Carson said. She had no idea I could have bought half the cars in that garage without making a dent in my portfolio. Julian, please, she said, her voice softer, pleading. I'm sorry, I should have defended you. But this thing with Carson, whatever, you're planning, it's going to hurt both of us. My career, our future. I unlocked the car. Sienna, after tonight, I'm not even sure we have a present, let alone a future. Her face went pale. You don't mean that. I looked at her a long moment. Really looked. Beautiful. Success.